My name is Nicole Pinson, and I'm the Urban Horticulture Agent and Master Gardener Coordinator for Hillsborough County UF IFAS Extension. And today we're going to talk about how to plant a tree. We get a lot of questions from residents in the county that wonder, how do I pick out a good tree? What's an example of a healthy tree? And then how do I go about planting it properly and getting it started? So today I'm going to demonstrate proper tree planting techniques and also give you some tips so that you can make sure you're getting a very good tree at the nursery at the time that you buy it. So this is the tree we're going to plant today. It's a great Florida native winged elm, very drought tolerant and disease resistant. It's a great tree to go ahead and get established in the landscape. It also has some wildlife value. Notice that it has a nice central leader, and even the root system in the pot is pretty healthy. But I'm going to show you some key things that you might want to take a look at and pay attention to when you're picking your trees at the nursery. So at first glance, this tree looks pretty healthy. I don't see a lot of roots coming out at the bottom of the pot. But then if I inspect the pot and inspect the root system a little bit more, I notice I do have some roots coming out the bottom. This is something you want to be wary of and take a look at. These are pretty fibrous roots. We can prune this off, but if I were to see a very large taproot coming out of the bottom, that would be a clue to me that this tree has been in this pot too long, and I might want to pick a different tree to plant in my landscape. So what we're going to do is I'll demonstrate to you what you can do to clean this up a little bit and get it ready to get started in your garden. So what you want to do is go ahead and gently work on the pot, because we want to take the tree out of the pot, and we can pull this one out. And notice as we pull this one out, we're starting to see that root system come out. So we're going to actually cut this off and prune it. Also take the time to rotate your pot and look at your root system. If you see a lot of circling roots around this root ball, you want to cut those off and look for that and prune them out. So right now I don't see a lot of circling roots, but I do see this root at the bottom. So what I want to do is take my pruners, and I'm going to go ahead and cut off these roots down at the bottom. And then work my way around the tree. Sometimes it helps to have a knife or some scissors. Here's another good example of circling roots. So I'm going to go ahead and just trim this off. And you might think at first glance that this is going to hurt the tree, but it actually will encourage the tree to produce new roots and to move outside of where we're initially going to plant it. So over time, this will cause the tree to become more healthy. So the key thing you're doing here is looking for any of those circling roots. You're breaking up the root system and then pruning out the ones that are wound up in one another. So the other thing you want to look for when you're buying a tree and getting ready to plant it is you want to see if there's any circling roots on the top. You also want to note where the flare roots are coming out of the base of the trunk, because that's going to give you a clue as to where to plant the tree, and you do not want to cover up those flare roots with any kind of soil. Sometimes I've seen pictures of trees that have died in the landscape, or I've even done site visits, and typically when I go out, they've been planted very deep, even sometimes 6 to 8 inches deep, and by digging down, I don't even get to the bottom of the trunk or the top of the flare roots until I dig down a few inches. So that's something you want to avoid. So look for the roots starting on the top. This will give you a clue as to how deep to plant it, and also to make sure that you're not covering them up with soil, because you really want to get your tree established well from the very beginning. The next most important thing to do is to measure the root ball. And this root ball measures around 6.5 to 7 inches. That's going to give you a clue as to how deep to plant it. You don't ever want to plant a tree really deep. So measuring or taking a look at how deep that root ball will serve as a guide. In fact, it's a good rule of thumb to plant your tree's root ball 1 to 2 inches above the soil line, not deeper, but you can actually plant it above to make sure that it's not going to be planted too deep and it gets established well. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to plant our tree. So you want to start by digging the hole a little bit wider than the root ball, and we've got this hole started here. And remember, we talked about how you need to make sure the tree is not planted too deep. So this tree's root ball measured about 7 inches, which means we could go about 5 inches in the ground. So I'm gonna put this in here. We go a little bit higher. There we go. We can go 1 to 2 inches above the soil. And so there we're right between 5.5 and 6 inches. So this is a good depth to plant this tree at. Make sure your tree is straight, and then you can start by backfilling the soil around your tree. You don't need to backfill all the soil. That's kind of a common error where people think that they have to put all of this back. If it's not necessary and you don't want to bury your tree too deep, you don't have to use all that soil. So go ahead and just backfill around your tree and firm down that soil. And as you can see, this root ball is a little bit higher than the surrounding soil, and that's okay, that's what we want. We don't want to plant it too deep or cover those initial flare roots. So the next step is watering. You want to make sure you check your tree daily, especially during the first few weeks of establishment. Watering is really important and will get your tree off to a great start. Go ahead and make sure the water fills the root around the root ball and the base of the trunk. Let it pool. This is a good thing. And then just monitor your tree daily for the first couple of weeks to ensure that it's getting enough water and will get established properly. So just to recap, today we learned how to choose a healthy tree from the nursery. We remember to pick a tree that doesn't have circling roots. We want to avoid long tap roots. Some root pruning is okay to get the tree established and to encourage new roots to develop. We didn't plant our tree too deep. In fact, we planted 1 to 2 inches above the soil level, and we made sure to water thoroughly, and we will continue to monitor it until our tree gets established. If you have any questions, feel free to contact our office. Our number is 744-5519, or you can visit our website, hillsborough.ifas.ufl.edu. Thank you.